Welcome to Great Match Generator. It's been a while. Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
That moves. That is grading papers and remodeling. It's just been a mess.
Yeah, busy time, busy summer.
Yeah, busy summer. But we finally got together to watch four great matches. I thought this was a great assembly. So great wrestling.
Really great set of matches. Obviously not quite the drastic variety that we have sometimes, since we literally have two matches featuring the same people. But overall,
that's how it goes sometimes.
It's random. So, but it was still a really, really good set of matches.
Really good set of matches. We have two Misawa Kawada matches from one from 93, 7/29/93, and one from 98. And then it was the May 1st, 98 one, which Kawada finally got his win over Misawa.
Yes.
Then we have the Satoshi Kojima versus Genichiro Tenryu from All Japan Pro Wrestling shortly after the Exodus of the Noah guys in July 17th, 2002. We're coming up on the anniversary of that. And then Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Loki, JAPW, 11/14/2015. Normally go in date order, but I feel like saving Misawa Kawada for last would be like something we should do.
Okay, so why don't we start with Loki versus Rey, and we'll kind of go backwards until we get to Misawa Kawada, and then we'll do those in order. Because I think
we'll do Misawa Kawada in order because it sort of makes sense within the story.
Right. So we can start with Loki versus Rey then.
This was an interesting match. I thought this was very technical at times and very basic, but often well worked.
Yeah, it's a match that, like, this is my second time seeing this match, and I always, like, both times I felt like it's a match that 10 years earlier would have felt like an absolutely impossible dream match. And you get them both, this is 2015, I believe. I didn't write 2015.
2015,
it's both of them are still in great physical condition. Both of them can still go. And so I didn't really know what to expect, but I knew it would be a lot of fun. And they wound up kind of working it a little bit like they leaned into it being an indie match, right? It's a very technical showcase. It's a chess match. I think the announcers even discuss it as a chess match early in the bout. And I thought that was a really good analogy, one that gets thrown around a lot, but was really apt here because you saw lots of reversals and it was very technical, and things were, Loki's reversals of the 619 were a key part of the story and how he had that scouted. So the first time he dips out of the way before Rey can get the move. The second time he pulls the rope down and Rey flies through. And then the third time he just kicks Rey as he's coming around. And Rey Mysterio never hits the 619 in the match, which is kind of funny given how much they built around that spot and Loki's ability to avoid it. Did he hit it at the end?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, did he? I must have been jotting something down and missed it because I saw he finished with the frog splash. But
at the end.
But regardless,
frog splash.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I vaguely
it paid off the 3 missed 619s.
Right, exactly. Which is why watching it, and when I I guess I literally just like turned away for that second and then looked back up. I was like, wow, it's kind of weird that they didn't finish it with the 619 or do the 619 at the end, but makes a lot of sense. But regardless, I think it's a good match. You get Rey kicking out of the key crusher. And then, a thing that I really loved about that is he was selling the sort of fatigue and his desperation to hang on to the match as Key was going to the top or going outside Rey just grabs his leg and like sort of desperately holds on to him to keep him from getting momentum after the key crusher. So lots of little details. These are definitely two great wrestlers, and I think it lived up to the hype. And it's not a flashy match, but it's a really good wrestling match that I think holds up really well over time.
I think the details what really sort of put this match over the top for me. It wasn't really the work. It was more of the details of like how they worked in everything together, how they worked in the legwork, how they worked in like Key trying to reverse 619, and I thought it was excellent.
Yeah, I love this match, and I'm also a sucker for mask rips, and so you get like Key ripping at the mask and like nearly pulling it all the way off at one point. So they worked in a little bit of malice and a little bit of toothiness to this, kind of ultimately kind of a show of respect chess match between the two. And yeah, like you said, this is the devils are in the details here. It's not a wild brawl. It's not this sort of like chaotic match, but it's a really nicely done, detail-oriented match.
Yeah, I went for flat on it.
Okay.
It's something I really like. It's not the greatest thing I've ever seen, but I really liked how a lot of the details were executed.
Sure. I went higher than that. I went 4.25, and I could almost see this being a 4.5 star affair if you were kind of in the right mindset for it. I think it also probably just gets a little bit of a bump for me from like being this just thing that shouldn't have, like, doesn't look like it should happen. It doesn't, like, it still feels like a dream match, even though now, like since, probably 2014 or maybe even 13, lots of these matches have happened, and there's been, tons of things in wrestling that feel like impossible dreams or Fire Pro Wrestling simulations come to life. It still feels weird, and it's really cool, like in a really cool way. So I give it 4.25 easy, and I think I have a lot of time for matches that do good storytelling kind of in a vacuum, right? There's no big backstory to these two, but they still tell a really solid, physical, compelling narrative.
Yeah. Ray did like a tour in like 2015 in England, like where he worked Ricochet and Ospreay, and I like those matches a little better.
Okay.
Because that's sort of my high energy, high pace style.
Okay, that makes sense.
But nothing against this match.
Sure.
This match was great.
Yeah.
But Loki's not really like the highest, flashiest of wrestlers either. He's more of a tough guy.
Yeah, he's so brutal, and we've kind of got accustomed to the stiffness that Loki, like his signature stuff early in the 2000s, has just become like kind of commonplace. The stiff kicks, the way he grapples, he's got very informed grappling, works some shoot style stuff into his matches, is a lot more common now. So it doesn't stand out a little bit as much as it used to, but I just have a lot of time for that. And, Loki was such a key part of getting me back into wrestling in the early 2000s. That I really am drawn to that kind of thing whenever he's doing it. When he's on, right? Like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. And this speaks to the age difference.
What's that?
This speaks to the age difference because I didn't grow up with Loki in the early 2000s. I sort of got into this late 2000s, early 2010s.
Sure. Yeah.
But imagine I do have a lot of time for it, and not I didn't have a lot of time for Rey Mysterio Jr. That's still freaking awesome. It's Satoshi Kojima, Genichiro, Tenryu. And boy, did these men just beat the living shit out of each other.
Yeah, sure did.
And it makes you want to root for Kojima. I think this was a great babyface performance by Kojima.
Yeah, I kind of noticed. So this is the first time watching this match for me, and I watched it this morning actually, and I was at the very beginning, I was into the idea, right? Like I like Kojima. I think I was like used to be a little higher on Kojima than a lot of people, and obviously Tenryu is an all-time great. So I was into the idea of it, but the start of the match was pretty physical, but it didn't really like grab me. And then like maybe 5 to 10 minutes in, you could hear the crowd really starting to like throw themselves behind Kojima, and I couldn't help but do the same. I couldn't help but really get invested in Kojima in this match, and I think you're right. Really great babyface performance, predicated on timing. Like so much good timing in this. I just kept writing like, a lot of it's really simple kind of physicality, but I just kept writing the timing on this was great. The timing on that was great. It was just so perfect.
Very similar to what I would have wrote if I was taking notes. It's sort of like the timing on this was phenomenal. Like the timing on like forearm spots and the chops and everything. It just screams like two smart pro wrestlers going in there and working a clinic on how to get a babyface over.
Yeah, and how to build to a like sort of fever pitch. They're clotheslining each other, they're elbowing, there's cutters, there's slams, but like, again, by today's standards, there's not the moves with a Z in this match. You have some dives and stuff like that. There's not really like the high spots, but everything builds and builds and builds, and it's a match that sucks you in, and really makes you, by the end of it, want Kojima to win so badly. And then obviously, he comes up a little short after the high stack power bomb, and it's like it's a letdown, but in the best way possible. You feel you're invested, and that's what you really want in wrestling.
Yeah, and Tenryu is just a perfect run.
Yeah, he's a great
2000 Tenryu, like the Muto match and this match in particular, just proves why Tenryu is so great.
Yeah, Tenryu is an all-time great. He's a wrestler that I think, there's quite a few people on this list, but I wouldn't bat an eye if somebody had him number one all time. I think he's earned that. He has the resume, and he's in that conversation rightfully. He almost never lets you down. Like he's such a consistent performer, and always brings something to the match. And he brought a lot to this match. He really brought kind of a hatred. I wrote early in the match, even like in sort of maybe after the first quarter of it, especially, like all of Kojima's offense felt like it was desperation. Like he was trying everything to scale this mountain that is Tenryu. And Tenryu's offense, when he was on top, felt like he was annoyed that he had to do work to beat Kojima.
Right.
Like he felt like he was just pissed off that he even had to be there still in this match. And that really puts over like Kojima's heart. It puts over like how bad he wants it. And that's, again, part of what makes this a really good match.
Yeah, I agree. I went 4.5.
Yeah, I went 4.5 as well. I'd almost go 4 3/4.
Yeah, I almost went there too. It was a match that really involved me.
Yeah. I think the thing for me was it kind of felt like right before the finish that they cooled off a little bit. Like there was like everything was escalating, and then right before the finish, it was like there was just a dip in the emotion and the pace and the urgency or whatever it might be. And I was like, I feel like this should have ended like a second ago.
Yeah, that's what I felt like too, because I was talking about this in the Greatest Wrestler Ever Discord, and somebody said, somebody said this match was the match where they sort of had like a lot of kick-out sequence, and they finished it like the powerbomb was a little too late, and I was like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it just could have come just a little earlier. And this is such a nitpicky thing to say, but when a match is built on timing, and especially really pitch perfect kind of sequences and how you build that energy, you got to nail it at the end. And I think there might have just been a slight, in hindsight, overstaying there, and that's the difference. That's the difference between what would be a 4.5, a high-end 4.5 star match to, a 4 and 3/4 star. But regardless, great match, highly recommend. Something that people should really.
For the ones who get going when the going gets tough, and the ones who know we're tougher together. For the Pathfinders breaking new ground, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as fast access to experts and 24/7 customer support. Because we know you have people depending on you, so you can always depend on us. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Check out maybe Kojima's best performance, and certainly another great line on Tenryu's resume.
Yeah, I think this is one of Kojima's best performances ever, and this is a great line.
Yeah,
resume. This is fantastic. This is the wrestling that's right up my alley. Speaking of wrestling that's right up my alley, All Japan in the 90s.
Yeah, right up most people's alley, really.
Let's go to the 93 match first.
Okay.
I like this match a little more.
Of the two?
Of the two.
Same. Yeah, I prefer this one to the 98 match.
This felt more struggling.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's, maybe we can even kind of talk about them a little bit simultaneously here, because they exist in different places on a larger timeline, right?
Yes.
So this is before we get kind of peak Kawada versus Misawa, which we've actually kind of talked about already. And it's early-ish in their rivalry. You get your big strike exchanges, you get lots of back and forth, but Misawa is kind of, he's the ace, and so he's got a lot going on in this match. And then the later match, in the 98 match, they kind of played Kawada as having all the answers, finally having all the answers. And so even though Misawa, it's certainly not like a squash match or anything, Misawa never really gets his feet underneath him in that match. He kind of, he's beaten to the punch just about every time. And even when he starts to make a comeback, Kawada is able to more or less, cut off his momentum before he gets too much. And that's the story, is that's what he finally had to do to beat Misawa. Like he'd come close before and lost it at the end. He'd come close, and Misawa always comes back. And in this one, in the 98 match, he finally kind of stays ahead of Misawa enough to get the win. And it was great. Like, the crowd erupted. They were,
crowd did erupt at the end.
So excited.
I sort of felt it was a little anticlimactic at the end. A way.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Again, I just sort of position it in this larger thing. And, that's what they'd already kind of gone to this well a bunch. And Misawa always had the answer at the end of the day. And now you needed this to have Kawada finally have all the answers in the match, right? In this match, you needed a dominant, not necessarily dominant, but like you needed him to be able to win the chess.
You needed a 70-30 type match.
Yeah, like he needed to be able to do this for a sustained period of time to finally unseat Misawa. And I think in some ways, maybe they should have, maybe it would have made for a better match if Kawada would have won earlier. But, it is what it is. And I think it ultimately is still one of the greatest rivalries of all time. But that's, so that's the 98. The 93 match, I think is just awesome.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's a little more brawly.
Yeah,
which I liked a lot. I thought it was a lot more brutal.
Mm-hmm.
With like the kicks and strikes. And we can talk about the alternate efficiency all we want. And how it sometimes it's excessive, but they do it in such a way where you think it's an epic thing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they weren't so excessive early in the 90s. I think most of the excess critiques of All Japan typically are aimed at the sort of later matches, which is ironic because I don't actually find the 98 match particularly excessive. I think it's actually
No, I don't find the 98 match that excessive, honestly. I didn't think it was that excessive, and
yeah.
I didn't think it was I didn't think it was really that long of a finishing sequence either.
No, but the 93 match is definitely snug, to put it mildly. It's you can feel it. They're really going at it here. Misawa hits like just one of the most beautiful drop kicks early in the match. That was kind of noteworthy to me. I think the kind of move of the match is really near the end. Misawa hits Kawada with one of the meanest German suplexes I've ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah, that German, it's so mean.
Him. I mean, he looks like he is folded directly in half on his neck, and it is absolutely terrifying. But especially when you see it from that first side angle, it's just yikes. And they had some really good like kickouts at the end. I'm also a sucker. Like one of my favorite spots is when a wrestler doesn't like fully do the kick out, but just barely lifts their shoulder up at the last.
I love that, and Kawada did that in this match.
Yeah, Kawada does that in this match. And then then you have Misawa like adjusting his pin, but by that time Kawada is able to kick out. It gives him enough time. Just little things like that are great storytelling devices, set things apart a little bit, and I really appreciated that. So I thought this was kind of your par for the course great match between two of the greatest of all time clicking. And the latter match, the 98 match, is something a little bit different. It's kind of a curveball of a match between the two, but one that I think punctuates their rivalry.
I think it punctuates their rivalry very well.
Yeah,
I still gave it 4 1/4. Don't get me wrong. It's
exact same. Yeah, I gave that the 98 match 4 1/4, and I gave the 93 match 4.5.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. That's where I'm at.
They're
exactly where I'm at.
I mean, they have such a high floor. Like Kawada and Misawa could like thumb wrestle for 20 minutes, and it'd probably be a 4-star match. Like,
yeah,
they're just so good together. I mean, I still personally think that Kobashi and Misawa are a better pairing, but I'm a major Kobashi mark. So, but that's neither here nor there. These are two great matches that really deliver what you are expecting from 90s All Japan.
Yeah, how do you feel about Misawa's candidacy in GWE?
I mean, I will not be the high vote on him. I mean, there'll be people who have him like number one.
Yeah, I'm not going to be the high vote on him either. He's in my top 20.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly where I have him on my kind of working list, but it's probably in the top 30 at the lowest. He will probably creep up that list a little bit. I think for me, the lack of variance in opponents in like sort of high end matches is a thing that Kawada. I think Kawada and Misawa suffer a little bit from that, whereas Kobashi, for example, who's my working number 2, has more great matches outside the pillars than the others, in my personal opinion. But Misawa's he's a lock from my list. He's easily one of the top. He's maybe the greatest ace of all time. He's detail oriented. He's athletic freak given his stature and apparently his smoking habits. He's incredible, and there's not taking anything away from Misawa. I just won't be the highest vote on him at all.
I still have him third on the pillars, but still very high on my list.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have Kobashi 1, and I think the rest are just tied for second to me. Like, because there are times when
that's sort of my thing too. I'm like, Kobashi is such like really
Well, there are
Excellent.
times when I prefer Kawada, and there are times when I prefer Misawa, and there are times when I prefer Taue, and like it's a matter of my mood. It's a matter of the setting. So it's not really easy to figure out which one of those three I like better. Probably Misawa. I mean, push comes to shove, Misawa was probably number 2 to me. But yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong. They're brilliant. There's a reason everybody loves 90s All Japan. There's a reason it's often considered the greatest wrestling ever. You know, it's not just it's not a fluke.
No, it's not. It's storytelling like this. It's people going hard. It's people putting effort into the little things too.
It's a combination of their immense physicality,
yes,
and their storytelling, and like the detail from like match to match, right? Like sort of this worked in this match, so that informs the next match, and that informs the next match after that, and so on.
Yeah, it's just I just feel like 90s All Japan was like the peak, like one of the peak things of my interest of wrestling, and
oh sure,
going into Noah and stuff like that, and sort of what saved my wrestling interest.
Yeah,
along with the current New Japan product.
It's fantastic stuff, and you know, it's if you happen to be listening to this and you've not watched 90s All Japan, just go start watching 90s All Japan. Just go start setting out. You know, they're long. There's long matches, and I know it's not everybody's favorite thing right now, but you know, it's must watch wrestling.
It is. But next week, we do have some 90s All Japan from 93. We have Misawa and Kobashi versus Kawada and Taue.
Okay.
From 12/3/93. Then we have finally Rick Rude versus Ricky Steamboat from Beach Blast. Not Beach Blast. Yes. And then we have Bob Backlund versus Greg Valentine. WWF. 11/23/81.
Okay.
And then we have Vader versus Stan Hansen.
All right.
From New Japan 2/10/90.
Another good lineup.
A good lineup. And then 2 weeks from now, two episodes from now, we have CM Punk versus Mark Henry. WWE 4/2/2012. Kaintai DX versus Sasuke Hamada, Naiwa, Yakazuchi, and Dolphin from Michinoku Pro. Jack Briscoe versus Jumbo Tsuruta, and Yuji Nagata versus Kensuke Sasaki. So that's some stuff we are looking forward to.
Yep, absolutely. Sounds like, yeah. I mean, all these are good because they're the matches that have been nominated for the greatest match ever. But yeah, always good stuff.
Always good stuff. Yeah, I and also check out Greatest Wrestle Ever. The Discord is up. The forums are up on Pro Wrestling Only. Greatest Wrestle Ever is up now on there. So we do watch parties on Saturdays. It's a lot of fun.
Yep. Nice. So yeah, those conversations have been fun so far. I haven't joined a watch party yet, but at some point I will. Yeah.
But plug a chug.
Cool. So yeah, as always, at Mark Out Mountain on the Twitter machine. And then come check out the Greatest Match Ever project over at GWE Projects, as in Greatest Wrestling Ever Projects, at freeforums.net. We're sort of getting some conversations started back up over there. We were kind of in a lull, I think, a little bit while Greatest Wrestler Ever relaunched for the next, for the 2026 project. So long. And I think we're going to start gearing back up because the ballots are going to be due in November this year.
November. It's going to be good. I'm going to get my list together.
Yeah, good.
And
yeah,
we're going to do a list show.
Good. Okay. All right. Yeah. Always. That's such a fun project, and it's always fun to watch. It's fun to watch all kinds of wrestling, but the greatest stuff ever never disappoints you.
You know what I finally watched?
What's that?
Kandori versus Hokuto.
Oh, did you finally you hadn't watched that yet?
Steven showed it to me.
Yeah,
because we were watching a bunch of Hokuto.
Yeah.
And I can't wait till we get to it on this, but
yeah, it's the greatest match of all time.
Brad says it's the greatest match of all time. It's one of the greatest matches of all time in my opinion. It's in the top 10 for me.
Yeah, it's a banger. So let's talk about it sometime. But
yes, but for DJ D Kooks and Matt, you're listening to Great Match Generator on the Social Suplex Podcast Network.